In our previous episode, we stood in the streets of Rawalpindi. We watched Benazir Bhutto, the first woman to lead a Muslim nation, wave to her supporters from the sunroof of her armored vehicle. And then, in a flash of gunfire and flame, she was gone. A pistol, a suicide vest, and the fragile hope for democracy in Pakistan collapsed into silence. But today, we go further back, to a time when daggers decided the fate of empires, to a moment when betrayal wasn't whispered, it was carved into flesh. Rome, March 15th, 44 BCE. He was the most powerful man in the Republic, a general, a reformer, a dictator, and as he walked into the Senate chamber, surrounded by men he called friends, they struck. This is not just the story of Julius Caesar's assassination, it's the story of how one murder ended a republic and gave birth to an empire. Welcome to the red pages of history, where power bleeds, and every moment can be the last. He was born into a name, but not into power. Gaius Julius Caesar, born in 100 BCE, came from the Julii clan, one of Rome's oldest patrician families. But by the time he was a boy, the Julii were noble in name only, politically sidelined, financially modest, and surrounded by rising rivals. Rome itself was a city on the edge. The Republic was crumbling under the weight of corruption, class division, and endless wars. The streets were filled with merchants, slaves, philosophers, and soldiers. The rich lived in marble villas on the Palatine Hill. The poor crowded into wooden tenements that often collapsed or burned. And in the middle of it all, young Caesar walked with ambition in his eyes. He was educated in rhetoric, philosophy, and military tactics. He read Homer, he studied law, and he learned how to speak, not just with words, but with fire. At 16, his father died. At 17, he married Cornelia, the daughter of a powerful populist. And when the dictator Sulla demanded he divorce her, Caesar refused, risking his life for love and loyalty. That defiance marked him early. He was exiled, hunted, but he survived. He joined the army, fought in Asia Minor, and was even kidnapped by pirates. Legend says he joked with them, demanded they raise his ransom, and then, after being freed, hunted them down and crucified them. By his 30s, Caesar was back in Rome. He climbed the political ladder, quaestor, aedile, pontifex maximus, and finally, consul, the highest elected office in the Republic. But Caesar didn't just want office, he wanted legacy. He formed the first triumvirate, a secret alliance with Pompey the Great and Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Together, they ruled the Republic from the shadows. Then Caesar left for Gaul, modern-day France, and changed history. For 8 years, he waged war. He conquered tribes. He wrote dispatches, Commentari de Bello Gallico, that made him a celebrity back home. He built bridges, crossed rivers, and even invaded Britain. He returned to Rome not as a general, but as a legend. But the Senate was afraid. They ordered him to disband his army. He refused. In 49 BCE, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, a direct act of war. He marched on Rome. Pompey fled, and Caesar took control. He defeated Pompey in Greece. He chased him to Egypt. And there he met Cleopatra, the queen who would become his lover and mother to his son, Caesarion. Back in Rome, Caesar was unstoppable. He was named dictator for life. He reformed the calendar, creating the Julian calendar, which we still use today. He banned carriages during daylight. He gave land to veterans. He expanded citizenship. He filled the Senate with loyalists. But beneath the marble and applause, resentment grew. To the people, Caesar was a savior. To the elite, he was a tyrant. Rome was no longer a republic. It was becoming a monarchy, with Caesar at its center. and in the shadows, knives were being sharpened. The sun rose over Rome on March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. The streets were tense, rumors swirled, but Julius Caesar, dictator for life, dismissed them. He had been warned. A soothsayer had told him, "Beware the Ides of March." His wife Calpurnia had begged him not to go. She dreamt of blood, of statues weeping, of Rome mourning. But Caesar was not a man who bowed to omens. He dressed in his finest toga, he stepped into his litter, and he rode toward the theater of Pompey, a grand marble structure in the Campus Martius, where the Senate was meeting that day. Inside, 60 senators waited, among them Cassius, the strategist, Decimus, the insider, and Brutus, Caesar's protege, his friend, his almost son. They had daggers hidden in their robes. They had rehearsed the plan. They had chosen this place, not the Senate's usual hall, because it was tighter, darker, easier to control. Caesar entered. The senators rose. He walked toward his gilded chair beneath the statue of Pompey, the man he had once defeated. Then a senator approached with a petition. Caesar waved him off. The man grabbed his toga. Caesar frowned. And then the first blade struck. He gasped, turned. Another dagger pierced his side, then another and another. He stumbled backward. Blood soaked his robes. He tried to speak, but the circle closed in. They stabbed him 23 times. Some wounds were shallow. One pierced his heart. He collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue, poetic, cruel, symbolic. According to legend, he looked up and saw Brutus and whispered, "You too, my child," then fell silent. The hall was chaos. Blood on marble, daggers clattering, senators fleeing. Outside, the conspirators marched into the streets, shouting, "We have killed the tyrant! Rome is free!" But Rome did not cheer. Rome wept. The people mourned, riots erupted, and the Republic, instead of being saved, began to die. Julius Caesar's assassination did not save the Republic. It shattered it. The conspirators believed they were restoring liberty, but they had misread the moment. The people did not cheer. They mourned. Riots erupted. Caesar's body was burned in the Forum, and his death became a rallying cry. From the ashes rose Octavian, Caesar's adopted son. He formed alliances. He crushed Brutus and Cassius at Philippi, and he became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Republic was gone. The Senate became a shadow, and for the next 5 centuries, emperors ruled with iron and gold. Caesar's name became a title. Kaiser, Tsar, a symbol of absolute power. He had dreamed of reform. He had built roads, calendars, and laws. But in the end, it was his death, not his life, that changed history. He walked into the Senate as a dictator. He left as a legend. And the daggers that pierced his flesh carved the future of the Western world. If this story moved you, subscribe to the Red Pages of history. Because history doesn't just remember the victors, it remembers the ones who dared.